Hello there and happy Thanksgiving a day early. This is a water break Wednesday. There's no better way to celebrate Thanksgiving than getting together with my good pal, Deepi Sidhu, to answer your questions on a water break Wednesday presented by Crown Royal. This is where you send in your questions for us about the Texans, about life. We can do both. We're ambidextrous in that regard. We can answer questions about life and about the Texans. There's no other way about it. Deepi, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Drew. I mean, this is my first Thanksgiving game that I'm covering.
Yeah.
Working for the Texans. I started the year after the Texans last played on Thanksgiving Day. I mean, I wish it was under different circumstances and it was like a full stadium and a halftime show and the way it usually is. But you know what? I'll take it because the Texans are coming off a win. So this is kind of exciting. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow's game.
I am too. It's a really cool spectacle. I was fortunate enough. I got to cover that game up in Detroit the last time. And, you know, in the pregame, I rode up on an elevator and it was a cargo elevator. So it was bigger than most. And you know how I always make that joke about how there's always a comedian on a crowded elevator?
Yes.
You've heard that before. Well, There was nobody telling jokes on that crowded elevator, but it still held true, my saying, because you know who was on it? Tim Allen. From Home Improvement.
Oh, he's from Michigan.
So there really was a comedian on a
literally.
He was on the left wall, and I was standing next to a guy named Jim Caviezel, the actor who played, Jesus Christ in The Passion, Mel Gibson's movie. But yeah, it was a star-studded elevator.
What, did you tell Tim Allen your joke about there always being a comedian in the elevator?
There were like
then you would have been the
people.
Comedian.
He was talking about when he would come to Lions games on Thanksgiving when he was a kid. And he was talking to a former Detroit Lion, one of their famous receivers. I can't remember the guy's name. I think it was Charlie Taylor. But anyways, he was holding court. It would have been dumb if I'd have piped up. But those guys were chit-chatting. Kid Rock wore this mirrored sport coat, and then he performed at halftime.
That was the halftime show.
Yeah.
You know what? I just did an interview the other day, and I said that was one of my most favorite halftime performances. And I totally forgot that was the one during the Texans game.
Yep. Yeah,
now I'm even more jealous I wasn't covering that game.
And the Texans won, which was really, they went to overtime. And it's
That's
the
right.
only time after a Texans win, as the players were coming off the field, based on their faces, based on their body language, they looked like they had lost. Because you got to remember, they had played an overtime game just 3 or 4 days prior here in Houston against Jacksonville. So they were gassed. But that victory moved them to 10-1. In 2012, they would win another game the next week, and then things kind of went wonky after that. But that was a fun year and a fun Thanksgiving. We want to remind you, send us in your questions, where you're calling or sending these questions from, and we'll answer them as best as we can. We got Aiden on YouTube says, "What are you doing for Thanksgiving?" Well, Deepi, you and I are going to work. We'll be at the stadium to do the pregame show. After the game, and we get things wrapped up, I'll be back here with my family. We've got 4 little children, so it's going to be fun. We'll have some turkey and some ham, which I got to go pick up some ham a little bit later. And then, Deepi, what are you going to be doing with your family?
Well, same, Drew. I mean, it's going to be a crazy day. I got to work. We got to do the pregame show. We're going to cover the game, even though we're not at the game. People forget that when the game is over, the work still continues because you got press conferences, you got to write the stories and all that. But I'm going to do a little bit of Thanksgiving prep. I'm not making a turkey. I think that would be too ambitious. I know, we all know it's all about the side. So I've got all my groceries downstairs. I'm going to finish my work a little bit early today and start my prep. And then all my husband has to do is pop stuff in the oven. And hopefully all goes well. And we're well fed tomorrow night after a win. And hopefully nothing's burnt. So that is my big wish for Thanksgiving this year.
I have all the faith in the world in Sham. He's going to do a great job. He's a smart cookie. He'll be able to cook things and follow directions. I have no doubt.
I'll leave directions for him very specifically.
You guys will have a nice feast, courtesy of Sham, putting it in the oven. All right, Ziad or Zayad, I apologize if I pronounce it or mispronounce that name, but Zayad on YouTube says this: is the Texans defense ready to face the Lions? I'm kind of encouraged, Deepi, by what we saw last Sunday. You saw them bottle up the run for the most part against a team that could run it in the Patriots. And then with some exotic blitzes, they were able to get to the quarterback. They hit Cam Newton 8 different times, and that's a lot. I mean, you don't always get the sack in that, but you're affecting the quarterback. 8 hits on him, and then you add in JJ's 4 batted passes. I think Carlos Watkins had 1 as well. That's 13 times you affected the quarterback. That's great. That's encouraging. Yes, I do think some of that maybe even more, could carry over to tomorrow, Deepi.
Yeah, you certainly hope that momentum that you started against the Patriots continues into Thursday's game. Before the pregame against the Patriots, someone had asked us, what are the keys to a win? And we were like, you just have to stop the run. Really, that's all you have to do. It has to start there. And the turnaround that defense showed, we were talking to Cecil Shorts, former Texans wide receiver, now legend for the Texans. I said, what changed? The personnel was the same. Was the scheme just so different? It didn't really seem like it was so different. He said he really felt like it was last week, defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver just really standing up for his guys and having all the confidence that they were capable and they were going to do it. And, it was the talent was there. And he really stuck up for them because they were getting a lot of criticism on not being able to stop the run. And Cecil felt that really gave these players that confidence to want to run through the wall for Weaver. And you mentioned it. We saw so many guys have great games. J.J. Watt, first defensive lineman in NFL history to get 4 batted passes in a game. Justin Reed, Jonathan Grenard, both had their first career sacks. You saw that double safety blitz on 4th and 4 at the very end to sort of seal the game on Cam Newton. I talked to Lonnie Johnson about it. Everyone just felt like things were coming together. They were putting their best foot forward. And I feel like the defense needed that sort of performance to boost their confidence. And this is a Lions team that has really a lot of the same issues as the Texans. They also struggle against the run. They also have the same defensive issues. So it seems like things are coming together for the Texans. The Lions are coming off a really tough loss. I feel like I'd rather be in the Texans' shoes coming off a big win like that and having the confidence to play on national TV. So I feel like things could have turned around for the defense after that performance.
Hopefully so. Harry on YouTube has this: is David Johnson going to be back for the Lions game? Can't answer definitively, but I'd be surprised if he is. Don't think you're going to see him this week. You're going to
David Johnson's on IR though.
Yeah, so you got to pull him off first.
Right. So
it's going to be mainly Duke Johnson, CJ Procise. I'm writing a little bit about it in 5 Things to Watch, which will be out a little bit later today. But the Texans only ran the ball with their running backs 13 times on Sunday, and to kind of offset that lack of a run game, Deshaun Watson had 11 completions of in between 2 yards and 6 yards. So he was kind of buttressing the run game and doing the run game via the pass in what we saw last Sunday. And then on top of that, he had all those completions for 20 yards or more, 7 completions of 20 yards or more. So he was hitting them short and he was hitting them deep. And I think somewhere in there is a used car sales commercial. But anyways, I don't think we're going to see David Johnson.
No David Johnson. And, I think it's going to be Duke. And I thought we'd see a little bit more CJ Procise. But, it seems like the Texans knew what was working for them, and it was the passing game. So they just did more of that, more short passes to the backs, long passes to your deep wideouts. So I don't think it's going to be with David Johnson this year. He could come back. I think you only have to miss 3 games to be on IR. But, unless something drastic happens or you have some other injuries, I would think that these are the running backs you're going to go with now for the foreseeable future.
Hey, Sue says this: will Laramie Tunsil play against the Lions? I would think so. He practiced yesterday. He was a full participant, and he had not been practicing before that. So, yeah, I'd be surprised if Laramie Tunsil doesn't suit up, which that's a good thing. I thought Roderick Johnson played very well in place of Tunsil last week. It's the only time all season long Deshaun Watson was not sacked. But, yeah, I think Tunsil's back.
Well, that's great news for the Texans because even though they did win the game without Tunsil, you definitely want to have your starting left tackle for whatever game you're playing. And Tunsil was out with an illness, so it wasn't like an injury or anything like that. I think, once they determine that he's fine, he'll be good to go and be playing at 100%. I can't wait to see him back on the field.
And a big key, it was not COVID. So
non-COVID illness, yes.
But it must have been something nasty for him to miss a game. Pete in Dallas, do you think the Texans offense looked better against the Patriots? I do. And then Frank has this: do you think the offense runs better when they play 5 wide? As far as the first one, yeah, it did look better. The week before, they didn't score many points. They were able to move the ball against the Browns. They had a 14-yard drive, a 13-yard drive. Both of those ended without points. So you put touchdowns up on each of them, and the Texans, they win by a little bit in that one. But 5 wide is an interesting thing. I do think when they spread it out like that and they go in an empty backfield, it's typically when they're going in sort of a no-huddle late half late game situation, and the ball moves when they do that. I don't know that you can sustain that the whole game, but it darn sure is fun to watch. That,
Yeah, actually, five wide, bunch formation, empty backfield. All of those mean some big plays about to happen. But you're right. It's hard to play 60 minutes of that because pretty soon your defense just knows, okay, they're not running the ball. We just got to defend like every single receiver out there, which is there's a lot of receivers between the tight ends and your backs and obviously your wide receivers. But I think that we're going to see a lot more of this passing attack. Romeo Crennel said, he said, if the passing game's working, we're going to stick with the passing game. If the running game's working, we'll stick with the running game. If both are working, we'll stick with both. And right now, the hot hand is the passing game. And Deshaun's playing really, really well. He's playing his best football. I thought that second half against the Patriots was just magnificent, how Deshaun was performing on the field. So, I mean, I'm excited. I think it's going to be a shootout because the Lions, very similarly, Matt Stafford, he's been doing really well with the deep passes. So we could be in for a shootout. I mean, I don't know what the defenses plan to do, but I think the offenses are planning to really stretch the field and score a lot of points if they can do it.
No doubt. Okay, Steve has this. How does less practice and rest affect the play on a short week? I think maybe earlier in the season it's tougher on these guys, but now that they've got 2 months of football, almost 3 months of football under their belts, I think it's okay. They'd rather have the week to get better and heal up because, like Cecil was telling us the other night, last night, he didn't feel regular until Friday after a game. Now they're going to be achy and they're going to be sore, but they'll be able to play and they'll be able to get out there and do things. I mean, we saw it last time this game happened for the Texans on Thanksgiving Day. They had played basically 5 quarters of football, and they went out and they played another 5 quarters of football and they won the game. So you don't want to do it. It's not optimal, but they'll be all right. And the Lions are in the same boat as well.
Well, the good thing is you get an extra break after this Lions game. So even though you're playing on a short week, they'll have a few extra days to sort of rest and recover before the Colts, which is obviously an important game being in the division. So, I mean, it all sort of evens out in the end. Every team has to do it. Every team has to play on a Thursday night. At least they didn't travel on Sunday. They played at home and now they're going to travel Thursday. I mean, I think it's hard when you have to travel back-to-back games or play overtime games. And, I think coming off a win, that just mentally that propels you into the next game.
No doubt.
Better spirits.
Raul wants to know, what will the players eat after the Thanksgiving game? I'm racking my brain and trying to remember what they ate in 12 after that game. But normally when you're on the road and you're leaving a game, as you come out of the locker room, there's tables and they've got something delicious and fairly nutritious that's from a local place. Like it's not just McDonald's or Chili's or something. It's like a local spot, a local specialty, and you take that and you can eat that on the bus. Then on top of that, you get on the plane and you've got 3 different options, basically a steak, a chicken, or a seafood salad. So you usually have that. But I don't know if they're going to mix things up and have turkey this time in one or both of those spots. They might. And then the players will probably be back around 8, 9 o'clock. And so who knows what they'll have planned in each of their homes. But they'll eat well, whether it's turkey and the standard Thanksgiving or not.
Okay, so I remember seeing a picture of Matt Schaub, J.J. Watt, and Andre Johnson on the field doing a post-game interview after the game. So didn't they have turkey legs? They had turkey legs, right? I don't know if they'll do that this year with COVID.
Yeah, but they usually do that after the game for the 2 or 3 guys who had the best games. Because like JJ had 2 sacks in that contest, I think, and Schaub and Dre just, lit it up. So those guys, they might have a turkey leg, but you got to remember they're still in uniform. They haven't
sweaty, wearing gloves.
I don't know how much turkey they actually eat, and if anybody boxes it up for them or not. But yeah, they're gonna eat well no matter what. So don't worry, Raul. It's a great question, but they'll eat.
I'm sure they'll eat really well. They'll probably have several helpings of turkey, and then they'll get back and they'll get to celebrate Thanksgiving on Friday, hopefully, with their families.
All right, San Antonio is representing because we got Antonio in San Antonio, and then Sebastian, Texas. Raul is chiming in from there, and then Isyan in Philly, or Isyan. I don't know how to say that name, but thanks for checking us out in Philly. All right, final one, Deepi. What are the keys to a win? That comes from Aiden on YouTube. Let's start with you. What are your keys to a Texans win, Deepi?
I think it's the same as last week. You got to stop the run because that formula works. And I think Deshaun has to play like Deshaun. I think if he can have the same sort of performance that he had, get out early, score, convert on third downs, extend the drives. I mean, those are the keys to the win. I think you just got to do exactly what you did against New England. And I think you're well on your way.
Yeah, mine is just Deshaun, keep doing what you're doing. Keep it up. You're reading defenses beautifully right now, and you are moving the ball, getting in the end zone. Just keep doing that. And I'm going to leave you all with a final interesting stat. Now, you and I know, I always give you the turnover differential. Takeaways versus turnovers on your end. So the Texans are not doing well in that regard. They're -4 on the season, so that puts them in the bottom third of the league. However, they've actually been very, very clean with the football. They've not turned the ball over much. You know that, Deepi, did you know that they're tied for third in the entire league in the fewest turnovers? They're doing very well in that regard. They just can't get an interception or a fumble on defense or special teams to save their lives. I mean,
they've come close.
Very, very clean with the ball, but they can't get takeaways.
I feel like it's so close. Even in the last game, Roby had that one pick in his hands, I feel like. And then the week before, every week you see guys get the ball in their hand. It's coming. I feel like it's coming. But Deshaun being able to, and I don't want to jinx it, I want to say 3 or 4 or 5 games consecutively without an interception. Also penalties. The Texans, the storyline that no one's talking about is penalties. They've committed the second fewest penalties in yards in the league so far, which is great because usually that's a huge issue, it seems like, for this team. But you know what? They've been playing really clean football. I think the turnovers are going to come, but who cares? Because if you don't get a turnover and you still win the game, I'll take it because they still were able to get sacks, pressures, quarterback hits. They were definitely making things uncomfortable for the opposing quarterback.
All right, my friend, we're going to do this basically in about 24 hours again for the Texans pregame show. It's going to be a lot of fun. You and I will be at the desk taking all of our friends' questions. So make sure you check us out tomorrow. It'll probably be around, 10:30, would you say? That's usually an hour
before kickoff. So, yep, I would say between 10 and 10:30. Be sure to download the Houston Texans mobile app.
Yep.
Presented by Kroger. Check out Facebook, YouTube. We are everywhere. Texans Unlimited, presented by Verizon. We'll show you live shots of the field too, so you get to see the guys warming up, which don't really get to see anywhere else, and answer your fan questions, give you the top stories of the week. It's a great pregame show. Great way to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, for sure. And if your question did not get answered right here, you can send me a question at Dear Drew. I'm like so bored. I haven't had any questions from you guys, and I miss you.
He just has to pick up his ham, but other than that,
I got to pick up my ham. But then after that, I'm doing writing. So send me a question, and I'll get and do my best to answer it. All right, Deepi, good job. Andrew Temperley, Amanda Caffey, and Tyler Marcotte, great job as well for putting this all together. We couldn't have done it without you guys, but most of all, we couldn't have done it without you, the fans, sending in these questions. We do appreciate it. We wouldn't be here without you. So thank you, and happy Thanksgiving. Hope you have a fun night. Be safe, and we will talk with you again.
We'll see you tomorrow.
25 hours, yeah. All right, till then, so long, and go Texans.